Hello, beautiful boss babes. Are you ready to chase life with Kelly? Well, I'm your host, Kelly Chase, and I'm so excited you're here. We are going to talk about all things love, dating, relationships, money mindset. We're going to dive deep into self-love, worthiness. I am going to bring on some incredibly empowering guests. We're going to have fun, we're going to laugh, and perhaps we're even going to shed some tears together. I am here to empower you, inspire you, and motivate you to create the life you crave. I am so excited for today's episode. Let's dive in. Yay! Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Kelly Chase, as you know, but I just love saying that because it's just so new for me to start saying that. I don't know why, but I just started doing that. I have, as you all know, every guest of mine is so special and so fabulous. But really, again, you guys, I think, your energy, it just really attracts the right type of people. And this woman is just so much like, she's a starburst. I mean, obviously we're both wearing yellow right now too. So she's just such a light. I want to welcome to the show, Alicia Robertson. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Kelly. I'm so excited to be twinning with you.
I am so excited too. Let me tell the audience who you are and what you are about. You're the founder and CEO of Lemonade Life, a coaching business that helps women navigate overwhelming life changes such as divorce, loss, and career pivots. Alicia is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, Make Lemonade, Thrive Through Divorce by Transforming Your Life. She has made it her personal mission to crush the stigma of divorce. In the past 3 years, Alicia has coached over 1,000 women and built a community of over 30,000 people. She is a sought-after motivational speaker and thought leader who has been featured on SiriusXM, Thrive Global, and the Papaya Podcast, and now the Chase Life with Kelly podcast. Amazing. That is incredible. Oh my, how did you get started, like knowing that this was something like a passion of yours and you wanted to serve women, and how did this all come about?
What's really interesting is I always knew that there would be some mission or cause or calling for me to have an impact on the world, a true legacy, but I never knew what it was and would never have imagined it was my own experience through divorce and no co-parenting. But when I went through that experience, I could not believe how isolating and alone and filled with stigma and shame and blame and truly almost impossible navigating that experience and the end of that relationship and what it meant to be a wife and a mom and a family, that I couldn't imagine, given the stats that show how many people navigate this experience, that there was so little support. And so I really just set out to write a book. I just wanted to write a book to put it out there so that people would have access to it. And then as I went to write the book and publish the book, I started to understand that there was a huge amount of opportunity and need for what the book was. So in fact, Kelly, the first book turned into what is now a digital course.
Oh, okay.
And my group coaching and one-to-one coaching that I do and the community. And the eventual book that came together over 3 years is much more of my memoir of my experience of how I first for myself lived through this and practiced all the things that I now coach on.
Wow. I love that. That's so great. So you're saying you turned the first book into a digital course. So was it more of like educational teaching style of a book, I guess?
Yeah, I really wanted, I have both sides to me, right? I have the mindfulness side and I have the business minded side.
Right. Same.
So there was this huge desire to help people with the healing and that journey to reclaim their power and to thrive through this experience through what is a personal transformation, to not be defined by breakup and the end of something, but to live in parallel of it. But then there was also this nagging thing of, I want to be able to share with people how to navigate the actual milestones.
Right.
And that was everything. So it was from the healing side of things, because actually what I coach on is the emotional intelligence stuff. So my background is in the neuroscience, the positive psychology, and mindfulness.
Okay.
And through all of my years in executive coaching and strategic planning and working with groups, women all seem to have the same themes come up, which was around self-worth, healthy boundaries, communication strategies, and confidence. So that is really what I coach on and what is the essence of the entire community. And then we also have the business of divorce, right? These are the things you need to do, the finances, the co-parenting, right? Property and assets and debts and agreements, all of the legalities. It's just that the way that I reframe that perspective is that it was an opportunity to look at my whole life. So it's not about the financial statement required to uncouple a marriage. It's about making sure that I'm financially independent, safe, secure, and that I'm working towards financial wealth. There's a big difference between, oh, I need this financial statement, which is uncoupling all of my assets and debts and liabilities and feeling like I'm losing and there's so much lack there and fear and survival mode stuff, versus shifting into abundance and prosperity. I am safe, secure, and building wealth.
Yeah, I love that too, because what you were saying is basically so many people coming out of a marriage a marriage, we'll speak to that, the marriage, and going through an uncoupling process, that they feel like they're losing everything, not just the person, but as you mentioned, the assets, now we have to split our income or child support, or, all the things that can go involved. So in the mind, we're perceiving that as this is such a great loss. So you're helping to shift those mindsets into coming from okay, yes, but let's take this and feel more empowered about this. So what can we do to approach it from a growth mindset versus this stock and lack mindset?
Yeah.
I love that.
I think at these ages and stages as we get older, and for me, I had lost so much of my identity and the labels and the titles and the social narratives of what success looked like. And so much of that was check all the boxes, do all the education, be the good girl, have stability. Stability was to be married, to have a successful business or career, the white picket fences, and then the children, right? So I was checking all boxes and further succumbing to the labels and the titles of what success meant to everybody else, but really checking in with myself. So by the time I was uncoupling my marriage, literally removing my rings to me was telling me that I was a failure. I wasn't good enough, that I no longer had access to family, that if I wasn't a wife, how could I be a mom? And so I felt like I was losing everything because my whole identity was in what it meant to be in a partnership, and how there's so much status and symbolism around that being the successful path in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so many of us, for myself, I haven't gone through that, I've never been married yet, but I've been through breakups and all of that. And I feel like the biggest thing, biggest takeaways through my healing journey has been, I found myself, I was losing, I really didn't know who I was to begin with. So when I was in these relationships, I was losing myself even more. So then when the breakup happened, I felt besides rejected, of course, I felt just so lost because I didn't know who I was. And I remember, I think that I will never forget, a friend of my sister's came up to me one time and was like, oh, what do you like to do for fun? And the words that came out of my mouth, I was so embarrassed to say, but as soon as they left my mouth, I was in my head, I'm like, Kelly, that's not what you do. That's not what you like to do for fun. That's just what you do kind of thing. And I my response was, oh, I like going out drinking with my friends. That was it. And of course, yeah, I have fun doing that. And I had fun, but I'm like this guy, I'm thinking he's looking for like a hobby, an interest, like something that's, artsy or something. And I was like, yeah, I'd go drinking with my friends. And like literally as soon as I said it, I was like, oh,
I totally appreciate that. I think my response was shopping at some point. Like that's
yeah,
my hobby. Like, how can I be that shallow that
right.
this is what I have to offer? And you have no idea. I Googled words like authenticity. I didn't
Mm,
understand. There's these buzzwords. Oh, be in alignment and live intentionally. And I don't know, intuition and authenticity. I had to Google them by the day almost just to
yeah,
go, okay, what is authenticity? What am I trying to figure out here? And I really had to, because when you live according to other people's values, you lose yourself. It's
yeah.
as simple as it is, right? And so I was, as that, recovering codependent and people
Mm,
pleaser and caregiver and supporter and all of those things, I had lost myself.
right.
But figuring out who yourself is when you're there is so hard. I had to be curious in every moment of my day.
Yeah.
When do I eat? How do I like to eat? I discovered simple things like I don't enjoy water and I don't enjoy drinking out of a thermos. So I need a soda stream because I like bubbles and I'll put a straw. Like,
Mhm.
but I really just never checked even the simplest
Totally.
of things.
Yeah, yeah. What is it like Runaway Bride with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, where she like doesn't know what type of eggs she likes?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go and watch that one again.
Yeah.
I remember that was a whole moment for her where she was like, I gotta go.
Yeah. But it was so funny. And then finally she realized what type of eggs she liked because he was so, like, because she was obviously running away from herself was the essential, foundation of that story. But yeah, I like found myself over the last few years. I'm like, do I know what type of eggs I like? Like, what are my favorite kind? It's so funny. But even like just to say that to emphasize, like, you're right. It's like those little things like that we are just so routine in showing up in our couple, in our partnership, or our friends and family, that we just lose ourselves and we aren't learning who we are. And how can we truly learn and communicate with another person if we don't even know who we are? Right. And like piggybacking off of that, like, okay, so as you're learning to love yourself and you're learning about yourself and you're learning what you like and what you don't like and all of that, I think one of my fears, I guess, and I feel like I just recently said this out loud to myself, but one of my fears is, okay, I've been single for a really long time and, minus the show stuff and some dating here and there, but like I have not been like in a relationship in a long time. And I think one of my biggest fears is losing myself again. I mean, yes, I've learned a lot of lessons and whatnot, but how does one not lose themselves again in a relationship? And there's other fears that come up too, like self-sabotage and whatnot. But I think that that's like one of my biggest things is like, how do I not lose myself? Because I don't want to. I want to grow. I want to support each other and grow together, but I don't want either of us to feel like wake up one day and be like, gosh, I feel like I've been like doing the most for that other person.
Yeah.
And I and have resentment and all of that, like that's such a fear. How do we do that?
So many things just went off in my head because I too have traveled that same path.
Yeah.
And I remember this is one that I'll share. These are, I think that it's much more than, saying all of the things, but what are the practical strategies and skills and tools that we can do? One is to also let ourselves off the hook a little bit with compassion. We're constantly learning. And even when we fall off, we're going to get back up at a higher rung. So the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you are, or for anybody else listening, is aware that these are the fears, that's massive because that level of awareness means that we have an opportunity. Then we're already going to be seeking out the resources and the information and the skills.
Yeah.
But what happens is that when we go to practice them, we're going to get the feedback. And the feedback is what's uncomfortable. And that discomfort is what kicks us back into old patterns, old behaviors.
Yeah.
But recognizing that that's how learning goes. This is how learning goes. We have, when we say, it's not failure, it's learning. But you have to kind of go back back and forth. And so understanding there will be hits and misses, but you'll get back up at a higher rung. And then intentionally practicing. So what I did in that space when I was first dating is I practiced full reciprocity. So for every time that I gave something, I challenged myself to ask for two things in return.
Okay.
Right. And so, I worked through this with my therapist. I didn't come up with this on my own. This is when I was going through that, where I too was challenged in not just over giving and over delivering, whether it was for recognition or validation or connection, or for, that safety and security that, you're not going to leave me, whatever that was, that fear of abandonment. Of course, I had to work on those things, but in the practice, I had to get comfortable asking for and expecting someone to give back to me and to be comfortable to receive it. Do you know how many women I work with where we're not comfortable receiving even a compliment?
Right. Totally.
Right. And then to practice. So, and I hope this lands too, is that recognizing that men and women are built differently, and men love to problem solve. So when you actually ask them for something, they enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
A level of connection that they appreciate to be needed.
That's so true. Yeah. Yeah. They want to feel needed.
It's true. And so I really started to practice. Okay, I've given something and now I need something in return. And even to declare it. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to plan this date night. You're up next. And even things like, don't leave things, again, it doesn't have to remove all the spontaneity and the sex appeal of it, but I'm going to initiate sex this time, up to you next time. You can still be really clear about your expectations and how you're going to receive as much as you give without taking the fun and the spontaneity out of it.
Right. Absolutely. So would you, like what you just said, do you really communicate like, okay, I initiated it this time, you do it next time? Like, is it communicated? Okay.
I do. And so first of all, so I've had two significant relationships since my marriage, and I've been 8 years on my own. And so I was 2 years after the uncoupling of my marriage on my own. And I did that intentionally. I really needed that time to heal and to become clear and start to know what my fears were and what I needed to practice.
Yeah.
And then I had a relationship. And just like you said, Kelly, I learned, it was the opportunity to learn. So much goodness and still further opportunity to learn. And then I was on my own again and still dealing with, some of the same things that creeped up, the loneliness, the not taking on the wife roles and duties, over delivering and over caretaking. And so I had to sit with that a little bit longer. And so I have become really effective at going, okay, what are my values in a partnership? What are the qualities in a human being that I require? And what are my top 3 priorities in a relationship? So that every time that I am feeling, because again, I'm still new to a lot of this stuff, asking for these things. So every time I'm feeling activated, instead of reacting by doing the very thing or pattern that is old habits, I can respond. And the easiest way for me to do that is to have really bite-sized pieces to stay focused on the facts. Okay, is this meeting what is a top 3 need for me? And how can I ask for what I need?
Yeah. Can you give me an example?
So for sure. So my top 3 is sex, fun, and experience. And this is my age and stage right now. So for me, sex is number 1 because I can get everything else from any other human being in the world. So that's a priority for me. Fun is that I really want to be in a relationship. It's as simple as choose a happy partner and be in a happy relationship. I want someone who is self-motivated to do their own healing and personal work and is responsible for their own happiness.
Yes.
Because as a caregiver and a people pleaser and an empath, I feel other people's pain and suffering quick, and I get into solving mode and the over delivering and the codependence. So for me, that's really important. Like they are responsible for their own positivity, and fun.
Yeah.
And then experiences, like we were talking about, I want experiences, similar lifestyle choices and compatibility. I want to connect and do things with a partner.
Yeah.
And so for the example you're saying, that makes it easy for me to ask for what I need in terms of what kinds of experiences do I want?
Yeah.
And it's your turn to make it happen.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Okay. And that he kind of keeps it simple. Like just having, I mean, granted, it's everything is awareness. So having the awareness of those three top priorities, and is it kind of like a non-negotiable in a sense? If it's not one of those three, this isn't going to work out. This isn't going to serve me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you picked up on that. Okay, yes, because the first actual practice, the first actual practice is to pivot fast. So I notoriously justified, made excuses, enabled people's behavior and would let them off the hook. And I would,
me too,
words, but not require actions. Right. And so, yes. So for me to practice, okay, so how am I going to, when I recognize something is off, how am I going to practice removing myself from it? And doing, for me, it was pivot fast. So I just kept saying to myself, like, don't let this linger on. So yes, I don't justify, I don't enable, I don't see potential, I don't remove power, I don't solve problems. These are hard boundaries I have.
Yeah, that's really good because you recognize that those are things that you're actually trying to heal from. So if you're doing them, you're not able to heal and you're still people pleasing, you're still being codependent, you're still doing all the things. You said seeing the potential. I'm like, oh my God, that just like hit me because I watched Eat, Love, Pray recently again for the second or third time. And I've read the book as well, but it was funny. So I'm going through that. And then I was like, God, I really just loved that movie. And so I'm in the middle of writing a book and I Googled Eat, Love, Pray. And I was like, there was a quote from the movie that I wanted to like insert into the book. Well, then of course I'm like reading all the other quotes and there was one and it was like talking about basically like how she fell in love really quickly before, but it was not because she fell in love with the man himself, but the potential of the man. And I was like, holy shit, that is me. Like, I think that's why I have pined over and longed for, like, I have, hoped that things would work out and allowed particular behaviors to occur and all this stuff because I know what people are capable of. I know their potential and I saw the potential in these guys. And therefore I was like, well, and that's the people pleaser. That's the fixer in me. I wanted to be that person to be like, I can change them and I can empower them to do great things. But the reality is I can't. It's not my job to do that. It is their responsibility to heal and work through their shit and be a man and take the steps that they need to obtain the goals that they want to achieve in life. But I just held on for far too long. And, I would say there's a handful of relationships that I just held on for so long because of that potential that I saw in them that I'm sure that, granted, these are all lessons that I was learning, of course, but I'm sure my life would look a lot different had I had the tools back then to be able to make those pivots really quickly and be like, nope, that doesn't serve me, not available for it. Nope, doesn't serve me, not available for it. But I continued to hang on, and here we are.
Me too. And you know what? Some of my greatest fear that I really had to unpack that, we had talked about was this negative association of fear around being alone.
Yeah.
Being alone and my discomfort with being alone and loneliness.
Yeah.
I think more than anything is what's held me in relationships, because even if it's a little hit of pleasure and connection, to my way of thinking then was better than nothing.
Yeah.
And then you start to settle, right? But it's also important to really understand that on the spectrum of neglect, that is a form of neglect in
Yeah.
terms of if people aren't showing up to treat you with
Yeah.
kindness and respect and with integrity and all these things. So I really,
Mm.
at the time, I didn't have the self-acceptance, the self-love, the self-respect, the self-worth, the self-esteem
Yeah.
to be able to stand for myself.
Yeah. I understand that too. Yeah. I would say probably, I mean, after again, I've been single for a long time, but when that last like longer term relationship ended, I was in that same place. Like, and I was, for years, for a handful of years after that, I was just losing myself, dating recklessly, guy after guy, and just totally not anywhere. I mean, I was caught up in this like terrible cycle that really was, I was on a hamster wheel. I mean, the definition of insanity. I kept doing the same thing, hoping something else would change, and nothing was. And I had to have a wake up call, and that came in 2017. That wake up call did. And I was like, literally everything in my life has to change. Everything. So, and
Love
I made
that.
that decision. It was hard. And to speak to that loneliness, I mean, back then when I made all those changes, I experienced a lot of loneliness because I had, my friends that were, married and or in relationships, or I had friends that were still going out and being single and doing the thing that I was doing, prior to. But there was like no in between friends, or I just didn't know who they were. Right. And so I became very lonely. But I would tune into podcasts and like different networking groups, whether it be in person, like wellness events here in Atlanta, and or, online functions and workshops and things like that, and Facebook groups. And I mean, luckily I was connected. I did connect with a handful of women through this Facebook group. We all went through this like mastermind program together back in 2018. And I'm still very good friends with a lot of them to this day. So, I found my connection elsewhere, but it was lonely in the respect of, I felt like I was losing friendships that I had had for a long time and that kind of thing. And now, fast forwarding to now, I recognize, like, I told someone on a podcast the other day, I go, although yes, I'm a very ambitious person, I have such a growth mindset, I'm very empowered. I think that, in order to achieve your dreams, you have to make different decisions and you have to lean into discomfort and do all of that. I said, but I wrote this in my journal. I was like, I do think that part of me doing all these things is also filling the void of not having someone. And they were like, yeah, I mean, if that's what you feel like, then yeah, I mean, although they're all great things. I mean, writing the book, to doing more podcasts, to creating content online, to doing public speaking, everything that I'm doing, although yes, it's creating impact and I want to create impact, I also am longing for this person. So to fill the void, the gap of the person not being there, I'm going to fill my cup in other ways, basically,
Yes.
you know, which is,
Yeah.
which is great. I mean, it's doing great things,
Yeah.
but
It can be that hustle culture, toxic positivity, if it
right.
goes unchecked for too long.
Totally.
I think, my journey through, and I liked what you said there too, is that loneliness can be within a relationship or outside of a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And was a great motivator for you to find ways to connect with people and come out of that isolation.
Totally.
And I think that's so important, because if there are listeners that are feeling lonely, that distinction that, women are connectors. And because of all the things we're talking about, we're the caregivers, we're the supporters, we lean in. So when we go through breakup, it can really be isolating for us, especially if our social networks and circles were tied to that person. Plus all the stigma of being an alone female. Right. Especially at later stages, that, oh, well, you're rejected, you're not worthy, you're a failure, all of these things. So there's a lot of energy for us to unpack in terms of feeling really good and solid being alone.
Yeah.
And I agree with you in that discovery of, becoming healthy and whole alone. I too had all this restless energy that I put out into the world in ways that I wasn't even aware of until the pandemic, actually, because it was the first time that I wasn't using my extroversion and excitement and doing and keeping busy. It was the first time that I had to, and fun fact, I went through exactly what you just described, where I was like, I'm not ready. I don't know about dating. And dating was, I was trying to understand how to do online dating. It was my first time doing that. And I was on a retreat in Costa Rica in February, right before the pandemic. And I finally was like, okay, I'm ready. I've cried all the tears. I've conquered all the fears. I'm ready to do this dating thing and put myself out there.
Yeah.
Enter global pandemic. So no, but
Mhm.
the blessing in that was that I was forced, I still did the dating, but I did it through the pandemic, but it forced me to not do this restless
Mm,
meet at restaurants, superficial dating. I
right.
actually had to have conversation and take it
Mm,
really slow with people because there was nowhere to go.
right.
It
Yeah.
was interesting blessing, you know, and a curse that I was able to further explore. Okay, I'm really alone and I'm really not able to fill voids right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Well, it's like kind of mimics our when Love is Blind aired. It was funny because it like our season aired and then the pandemic happened, and it's like, wow, everyone was kind of experiencing their own Love is Blind in a sense, from like the pods and whatnot, like because they're on online dating, no one can see each other, so you're having like phone call conversations and things like that. And it was like, wow, everyone had their Love is Blind experience during 2020.
That's so true. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
have to journal about that.
Yeah. 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 But
That
what would you say are like some strategies, I guess, for coping with those feelings of loneliness, or emptiness, because I know that that can be a feeling too after a relationship ends, whether it's uncoupling, or a breakup.
Yeah. So I know that whenever I have a fear, it's because of a limiting belief,
Aha. Yes.
right? That
Yep.
is very old, likely modeled for me. And I had zero choosing of it as a child and have just kept, you know, rolling with it. And so for me, first, it's to really unpack what the fear is, name it, give
Mm,
it language. I Google words all the time, synonyms, right? Let's
mm,
expand this fear. Let's really deeply understand what this is and why.
yeah.
Why is this? Why am I afraid of this? And then I like to sit with and ask myself, is this my truth? Is this my actual fear or my belief system? Or is this something that I have subscribed to?
Mm-hmm.
And then once I can really land the plane, right? Okay, that's what the fear is. This is where it's coming from and why it's there. And then having an understanding that I'm in control and I have the power to create my own truth and my own destiny with what this experience is.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's really starting to then, with a blank canvas, understand what being alone can mean to me. What are the positives? And so for
Mhm.
me, then it was really understanding, okay, so I again, if I'm experiencing loneliness, then is there chronic stress? Is there anxiety? Are there things that I need to solve for or to seek professional help for? Or is it as simple as, hey, I'm feeling really lonely, and that's a motivator for me to go and connect with people or engage in
Mhm.
some way? And then with alone is just realizing that that just truly means in the absence of people and
Yeah.
companionship. And this is a great experience for me because I'm able to discover, do more self-care, self-discovery, gratitude, freedom,
Mm,
independent living. And so for me, it was really exploring deeply why that was something that was feeling stuck and fearful to me, and
yeah.
then shifting into what truly is my opportunity to create for myself.
Mm, I love that.
And knowing, it's little things, even for me, my matrimonial home, for example, when I was first alone in the matrimonial home and I stayed in the matrimonial home, I didn't even know how to flow through my house because everything I did was with another human.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely, for a year, was in my room. That's where I felt the safest. That's where I put the color on the walls and, candles and incense and all the things just to feel safe. And then I started to learn how I could really reconnect with my space, my physical space. But so much pressure was to sell the house. Oh, you need a fresh start. And I knew deeply, Kelly, that home is where the heart is, and that no amounts of bricks and mortar, or the grass is greener on the other side, or coupling up fast, or filling voids, was going to allow me to figure this out for myself. And so I was 2 years completely on my own.
Yeah.
And then also finding ways to, I remember a beautiful soul said to me, okay, you're on your own now, but we need connection and touch.
Right.
And so find ways to receive that. Oh my gosh, isn't that interesting? And so I was manicure, pedicure, massage therapy, acupuncture.
That's so smart.
Even yoga classes, they come and reset your body. I'm like, yes, please reset my body. Just touch
me.
My body.
Touch me.
Just touch me. And even with girlfriends, and I check with boundaries and healthy boundaries. I am a toucher and a feeler and a connector. And I will just ask if I could sit close or hold their hand or have that touch, because it's so important. And the important reason for me to do that as well is because with 2 young children, it would be very unhealthy for me to put all of those needs and requirements on my children.
Right.
Which is an easy thing to do.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. I didn't even think about that. I'm like, I'm over here there. I'm like, I just want someone to hold me and cuddle me and stuff, like sometimes. And yeah, like going to get massage therapy, or as you were saying, like manicure, pedicure, like those kinds of things. Like, yeah.
I've asked random people, I've had random people, maybe I look like I'm needy and I need that connection, but I've had random people ask me in lines, or I will hug. Hey, could you use a hug? Hug. And even I was in a lineup to get drinks. I was at a basketball game and just started talking with this other person in line. And it was just such a great experience. And even that was just so much connection and filled me up. And we got to the front of the line and he offered to buy me a drink. And before that was, strings attached. Right. I doubled down on it. I'm like, yes, please do this for me. I want this.
Yeah.
This gift that you're offering me. And I also learned ways to touch myself, right? To really channel my own sensuality and take time with myself, whether it's in the shower or face masks or baths or massaging my feet. And I really, because I had never really filled my own cup.
I love that. I'll do that. I'll grab my feet and start rubbing them sometimes.
Well, you know what happened to me? I was on a yoga retreat and we were in this, it was a move your body yoga flow, which I cried through the whole thing because I was not comfortable. And I peeked my eyes open because we were doing these really sensual movements and flows. And the woman beside me was a goddess, like an absolute goddess. And I thought to myself, I shall never have sex again. I can absolutely not move like that. I should not be involved in this. And this whole class was just about women feeling comfortable moving in their bodies. Like when we hear music, even moving to music and putting a song on. And I think we can logically get, okay, we need to touch ourselves, but do we freely allow ourselves to move and explore? Because so often I feel awkward and like Elaine Bennis, from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I'm in my private space. But the next day, we're all in this class in the session, and doesn't the woman who was beside me so sensual, and to me I just thought I'm such a failure. She was actually the #1 ranked Canadian salsa dancer.
Oh wow.
So here's the thing, we have to be kind to ourselves. You have no idea who's beside you,
right?
It doesn't mean that you are less than.
Right. Absolutely. No, but those were great tips, and just things I think what you said as far as like just recognizing, having the awareness of like what your limiting beliefs are and what your ideas are around the fears that are popping up for you around loneliness or failure or whatever the case may be. And then again, like kind of like redirecting and reprogramming those thoughts, redefining what all of that can look like for us. Like, okay, there's always that duality of, okay, there's going to be a dark side, but there's going to be a light side to it too. So like, let's look at the lighter side of what this could look like for us, and that, and touching ourselves and other humans, and just feeling that touch in different ways. Maybe that's something too. It's like redefining what pleasure looks like for us. Because most time when we hear that word pleasure, we think more sex or intimacy with a partner, and it doesn't have to be that way. It can be going to go get a massage or a pedicure, or walking barefoot on the grass, like little things like that. It's just redefining what that can look like for you, and not what's based on someone else. How do you feel? I mean, besides those couple of things, because I think that those kind of flow into this too, but how can someone rebuild their self-confidence and self-esteem in the aftermath of a divorce or breakup?
Yeah. I love this question, because I think what is seldom talked about is when you're going through personal crisis, self-care looks very different than when you are thriving.
Yeah, it does.
So, but the pressure and the buzz is to hit the gym 3 times a week and do all the things, and the yoga and the Pilates and the meditation and when you're going through personal crisis, challenge, and massive change, what you need is very accessible, very easy ways to self-soothe and self-care. And for me, that's the sustainable piece. I mean, we all go in and out of the gym program or showing up and doing whatever, but how can we have a sustainable way to really be able to work through prioritizing ourselves, number one, because our boundaries for ourselves start with ourselves.
Yeah.
So if we don't have them for ourselves, how do we even communicate them to anyone else in the world around us? So first is that I prioritize myself. I choose myself. And this can be to choose rest.
Right.
Instead of hitting the gym. This can be to define rest. It's a T. It's sitting quietly. It doesn't have to be sleep. Sometimes when we're going through these experiences, we can't sleep. And that's okay. We rest when we can. It's about living in it. Is your environment, do you have natural light coming in? Do you have the colors surrounding you? Do you have plants, that are bringing in incense and candles, right? Really accessible things. Are we washing our face?
Right.
Are we just doing the very simple things? Because when we choose to do these really simple things, the momentum is massive.
Yeah.
Because that energy elevates. So we've just cared for ourselves. And when we care for ourselves and we prioritize ourselves, the confidence elevates, right? That energy elevates, the confidence elevates. And then that's what we're putting into the world. And that's what the world is giving back to us. And so for me, it was all about the most simplest of self-care and recovery, to allow myself to be on this journey of healing and learning and evolution, and just to have this faith that it is about the journey and the process. Yeah. It's not about the results that I have no control or power over anyways. And so I really think that what is so important is just taking care of ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a great response. I totally agree with that. I think that that's and what you were saying too, it's like sometimes we'll get in that mindset of like, kind of like, well, I'll just like look my hottest, and I'll get in the gym and like just get in this like awesome body. What is it, like the breakup bod or something like that? And it's like, okay, but then we start to, it's almost like we shift. We're acting out of a trauma response, more or less. And so then we're kind of almost like traumatizing ourselves in another way sometimes, because then we can get so obsessed with that. And then we're like, no, I have to go work out. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, you probably are okay if you just go home and watch TV or just go meditate or sit in the park or something like that. Like, because then it starts that vicious cycle of I mean, that's probably what I did. I mean, I went into this breakup bod mode after that relationship years ago. But I wasn't really healing. I really wasn't facing the pain of everything. So I just started to focus my trauma on something else. And then I just got obsessed with obsessive eat or obsessive working out and disordered eating. And then that spiraled into that situation. And it was like, oh my God. So it was just like, I felt so rejected from that relationship. But then I started rejecting myself because all along I was probably rejecting myself because I was losing myself. I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
I never really was tuned into who I actually was. So it's so beautiful to say, tune into you and do the self-care because that is you actually starting to learn yourself and discover who you are and you learning to love yourself, you trying to love yourself.
I
So,
love that. And one of the simplest things that I did in the beginning was I would just ask myself, how do I want to feel? So there'd be an awareness, and I still do this all the time, right? How do I feel? Right. And where is this on a scale of 0 to 10? And so, and sort of why? Okay. And where would I like to be further up on the scale? And how would that feel? And then I would just challenge myself with that feeling, with that one word, to carve out the experience that would allow that. It's probably the quickest way to get into action. So, for example, with the workout stuff, to your point, I felt like the gym would be traumatic.
yeah.
It was too big. It was going into a community that knew all the gossip and the drama and all the things,
Right.
right? So I actually, my word was movement, vitality. It
Mm,
wasn't a working out.
right.
And it was connection, and it was safety, it was calm, it was these words. And so I started to explore, okay, I want small boutique classes, I want drop-in experiences where I don't have to commit to any memberships, and I want the movement, the workout, to feel and look a certain way that was much gentler. So it was the Pilates, and it was the yoga, and it was the spinning.
Mm,
And so that's what really worked for me, to be able to unpack just how can I do things that I want to do, but in a way that really protects me. Because I guess that's the thing, right? It is this rehealing of our inner child, really, where we're holding this inner child for the first time and advocating for her.
hmm It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. Like you said, it's probably the first time. And that was my story. I don't think I ever had discovered who I was, what I liked. I mean, I lost that, maybe when I was 18 or
You're gonna
earlier.
get 24 right here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the listeners who are, they recently went through a breakup or maybe it's been 6 months, since a breakup has happened or an end of a relationship or marriage, how would you suggest, getting back into the dating world and even, being intimate with someone? I know that that can be very scary because obviously having sex with someone is a very vulnerable and very intimate thing. So, feeling like they're not going to, give themselves too quickly to someone and then it backfire and then they spiral into this whole like rejection and lack of self-worth again and, all of that too. So, yeah, kind of can you walk us through what you would suggest in that regard?
Because I do think there is a little bit of a right and wrong way here. And I
Yeah.
just say that because of all the things that we've talked about. And I really believe that if you have done the deep personal work and you clearly know who you are, right? What is your identity? What are your values? The 3 to 5 words that are your governing code of conduct, and that your actions align with those values. So if you're doing this work and you're in a whole, healthy, authentic place that is in alignment with who you are, then we might be ready to explore introducing somebody else in our life.
Right.
And this goes for friends, for romantic partners, by the way, it goes, right? So
Yeah.
really taking that same, understanding and asking ourselves, what does friendship, what does relationship, what does partnership mean for me? What are the qualities? What are the values? What are the qualities? And what would be the actions that I would need to see to know that this is working for me?
Yeah.
And then having really this, like I shared, a top 3 priority list of what matters to make it really easy to remember. If we really are grounded and we know these things with clarity, then we have the self-worth that we're, elevating.
Mm.
We're able to establish healthy boundaries. We're able to communicate for our needs.
Yeah.
And have confidence doing so. And it's so important because to me, the dating world, especially today, felt fast and furious and sleazy and slutty. And like I needed to be keeping up with the 20 somethings and, all the things, the Botox and, laser this and the hair dye and the lash extensions and the nails. And, is my body tight enough? Like I've had 2 babies, am I good enough physically to compete in this fast world? And then, like you said, Kelly, I don't know, am I good to be in an open relationship or someone who doesn't know what they want or isn't sure what does casual mean?
Right.
And so then for myself, I had to really sit with all of this and become clearer. And some of it's through trial and error. But you're right, everything's defined so quickly. So as soon as I was dating or talking to someone, and then it moves forward to sex, for me, I value an exclusive sexual relationship.
Right.
Well, it's really hard to have an exclusive sexual relationship with now all of a sudden people not thinking that means marriage.
Right.
So, it really, it's different for everybody. And I think in getting prepared to date and explore partnership, what is so important that you know yourself, what you want, and you have the courage to stand for it, regardless if that person decides that you're not for them.
Yeah.
And that you clearly know what you want in a partnership so that you can talk about everything.
Yeah. That is true. I mean, communicating exactly. It's funny because I was going through a situation recently and like it became kind of a bummer in a sense, but then, I keep thinking, I'm like, timing is everything, but also I feel like it's a timing thing on my end, but then it's they're like, we aren't going to work because of I'm coming out of some relationship in a sense. And I think I want a boyfriend. I want to be in a relationship. I do want that. But I was experiencing, I've experienced a loss, let's put it that way. And although I have feelings for someone else too, like I was already like moving on. Let's put it that way. It's like I was already moving on. I'm experiencing feelings for someone else, but I still am experiencing the loss of this other person. So, it's like, okay, the timing on my end, probably not the best idea because I probably will be like not healing, not taking the priority to heal this situation first before diving into that. But then on the flip side, the guy who I was crushing on, he's like, I just don't know if I can be with you because of X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't know if it would work out because of that. And I'm just like, I recognize that there was a people pleasing in me, and how I responded was just like, well, you know what, like, this is what I would like to see happen, but I understand you may need some time to think about this. So like, yeah, take some time to think about it. Whereas 3 days later, after I'm thinking about everything, I'm like, no, I want someone who is sure of me and they don't need to think about anything. Like, whatever was happening, it happened, can't control it. It's in the past. Like, if that's what your hang up is, then you either get over it or yeah, you're right, we're not going to work.
I totally agree. Because the reality is I'm 44. So at my age and stage, we're no longer choosing partners or able to prioritize partners as number one, right?
Right.
It's just, you have aging parents, you have volunteering community commitments, you have friends that need you, crisis that is always happening. I have my children, I have a career. I mean, there are so many things that I need, right? And so if it's not a hell yes, and it's not easy,
right,
and positive, it's just a hell no.
right. Yeah.
But that is so scary to put yourself out there. And then when you express what it is that you want, and then someone says, yeah, that's not for me, it still really sucks to hear that.
Yeah, it does. So I'm like double rejected. I come from one part, I was rejected, but then I go it's a rejection. But obviously, I mean, I know I don't look at it like that. I mean, yeah, the fact is, yes, it is technically a rejection on both ends, but great. It's pivoting me, it's redirecting me to something that is going to be a heck yes, that is going to be sure of me and that is going to want to be curious and explore and get to know all parts of me. So, but yeah, I'm just like, okay, all right. So another one bites the dust.
Reset. And sometimes all the bullshit of silver linings gets exhaustive, right? Like it's like, I just don't want to see the silver lining or the opportunity for learning. This just really sucks right now. I'm just gonna have a moment. I'm just gonna pause. Because the other thing is that I learned in dating is it's a job, and it's numbers.
Yeah.
You've got to, I remember, I think I had like 18 conversations going on across like 5 different platforms.
Right.
Thank goodness it was the pandemic and I didn't have any other things to do. I don't know how people navigate all the other bits, but you have to really, I mean, it's almost like that just insatiable curiosity to just meet people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, it's been funny too, because I'll entertain the dating app sometimes, and like I'm a busy person, but it was funny because I didn't meet them in real life yet, or I don't know if we'll ever will. But this person, I was telling him, yeah, I like work a lot. I know what burnout can feel like, and I don't like to get there again. Like I don't want to put myself back in there. And he was like, oh yeah, I totally like understand what the burnout is. And this guy was like seemingly just as busy as I was, and and granted, we haven't been able to connect outside of messaging, but I'm like, it allows you to really, it gives you the perspective of like, okay, well, is that really what I'm wanting? Am I wanting someone that's just as busy, if not busier than I am? Like, no, like I would rather be the busy one and like have my person like come cook me dinner. Like, can you be less busy so that you can take care of things? That'd be great.
It's so true. And I will tell you, the grass is not greener on the other side, because I too am used to more of like that fast and furious and love bombing. And, even with whom I married, we moved in together within like 3 months and just all the things. And so I am still discovering what healthy relationships, healthy love looks like, right? And all these things. But honestly, it can feel boring AF. So I don't know. Maybe there's just no perfect answer to any.
No, there's not. There's not.
Which is why I just stay really grounded in my like, these are my top 3 requirements for right now.
I love that.
And right now, if I am happy and we both are on the same page, this is great. And I just remove expectations of the results for what the future needs to look like.
Yeah. Which I love that, because you're essentially just like breaking the stigma and the societal beliefs around everything, which, whether, no matter what age, I mean, even there's, 25-year-olds that think their life's falling apart when they're rejected, or, maybe they got married young and by 25, 26, they're divorcees. And now it's like, will I ever meet anyone? Am I going to be alone forever? I mean, I'm sure we all spiral into that in some regard, but I think at every age we can just, as you were saying, like redefine what all of this means and what it can mean for us, and that we can think of things from more of that growth and abundant mindset versus that lack and scarcity mindset and fear mindset. There is someone out there. I mean, like I said, I mean, I haven't been married yet, but I've been through a lot of relationships and dating, and it's like, okay, this is just redirecting me. And so, okay, so you got married and you're no longer married. Okay, it's just redirecting you into a different maybe there's someone else out there, or, I mean, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, the thought goes through my head that there are people out there that have maybe never been in a relationship ever, or they've never been married, and or will they ever, how do those who have never really been in a relationship and have never been married, how do they totally live a beautiful, harmonious life? Like, because I feel like that would, like, I don't think I could do that. I
Yeah.
think I would settle probably before I am dying alone.
Settling is not bad. We all make compromise, call it whatever you want, comfort, settling, compromise. Like there is a degree of that
Yeah, for sure.
for the right reasons and the right things. But I also think living a full life,
Right.
right? Just living that full life and whatever that is. But I too am like you. I like partnership.
Yeah.
I like partnership. And I actually, despite the fact I'm a divorce coach and I went through divorce, I love the idea of marriage and
Totally.
what marriage represents. And I think it's so special. And I love all the ups and downs and going through, like, it's not just about all the sexy stuff.
Right.
So I think that there's so much opportunity though to get comfortable with that. And what I'm still practicing is it's healthy to grow apart and together,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be independent and to find that healthy, like, interdependence, right? And just finding that person who is really also good with that.
Yeah.
And there is vulnerability because I'm currently in a partnership and he feels the same way. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we revisited, hey, is this still working for us? And do we like this in this capacity? And we were essentially saying to not take things to another level of commitment in that we blend families, live together, despite the fact that it's been some time and they say, right, at certain thresholds, you should be doing these things.
Right.
No, this is about what matters to us. And he also said, no, I'm really great. I love my independence, my own home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And doing my child rearing on my own terms in my own home. And then we get together when we get together.
Right.
Which was great. And that was everything I wanted, Kelly. And it was that conversation, full transparency. But at the same time, I was like, oh my gosh, this means he doesn't want more of me. And this isn't forever, maybe. And it brought up all of these triggers.
Yeah.
And so then it's getting used to the fact that genuinely ending our relationship is an option. Divorce is an option. We've both been through that. And that we actually are choosing each other.
Yeah.
And we want to be together, not because we have to be together. So, whether you're on it, whatever spectrum you're on, or however you're navigating a relationship, and there's so many interesting and incredible ways to do relationship these days, it's vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so vulnerable.
Yeah. And that's the key, I think, to all of it, is just being vulnerable and communicating exactly what you're wanting and what your expectations are, what your healthy boundaries are in a relationship, both ways.
Yeah.
To really create that dynamic that you're looking for. Ugh.
I love seeing, I just was at a wedding, my cousin, she's 36 and her now husband's 41. I love seeing those stories. I think, wow, what a gift. And even for them, they want children. Like, this isn't ageism is just a cultural disbelief. I mean, we are going to live into our hundreds. We have time. And I have another girlfriend who had children on her own. She knew clearly she wanted children. She had her child on her own. There's so many ways that all of this can look, and I'm just so inspired by that, and people taking different approaches to things.
That's so true. It's so true. Well, I think it's interesting because, yes, we are so programmed by society and culture and religion and all the things, but it's like so many of us are living against all of that. But we're in fear, we're in shame, because of it. Like,
yes,
okay, screw it. Like, screw the societal, screw the religious programming and beliefs, like, whatever. Like, that doesn't have to be your belief. That doesn't have to be how you live your life. It doesn't have to be how you parent your children. Like there's so many different things that just because society or culture or religion or whatever tells you this is the way it's supposed to be. And when we aren't meeting that, there's so much shame and guilt, which creates even more stress in our lives and makes our self-worth just like go to shit. And now we're, and now we're not modeling the better behaviors for anyone looking at us, so it's just like it's a constant spiral. So that's why I was like, that's so great that you like one of the first things you do is to help them really redefine what all of this could look like, and release those limiting beliefs, release the stigma, release the idea of what we're supposed to be doing and how we should be and all of that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm definitely against the norm.
There totally is our male counterparts don't get it, the pressure like we do.
Right.
When I started dating, it was, is he the one? Is this forever? Are you going to introduce him to the children? All of these things peppered with all these expectations, where my male counterparts could bring a different date to every single engagement and never get any of these questions.
Right. Totally.
And all of a sudden the pressure for me was to, settle down or whatever. So that was something. The other thing you mentioned, which I think is such an incredible opportunity to help with this, my children they were involved in the dating process. They're 12 and 7.
Okay.
And so I was open. So the first time that I did dating, it was very, don't include the children. Make sure he's the one before you introduce the children. Again, this pressure, right? And you don't want to have multiple men in their life because that would mean you're sleazy and a bad mom. There's so much of this stigma, right? And so I did. I was like, okay, yep. This is what I'm being told. I won't, introduce the children. Anyways, that was just stupid and did not work for me. So the second time I had an opportunity to date, I included my children. I explained to them what dating was. And let's face it, these are life skills they need, right? How do you evaluate friends that you're going to give more time to, or more resources, or more confidence, or more levels of intimacy, right? You're going to evaluate them on values, on actions, like all the things we're talking about. Yeah. And so I was able to share with them, and what is the difference between dating and how do I decide who I'm going to date versus who I am then going to spend more time with or be in a relationship. Right. What is the difference between commitment, right? All these things, they got to experience that. And I included them in what mattered to them in terms of partners that I might introduce to them. Right. And so that's not something I ever thought that I would do, right? Because I do tend to lean much more traditional as I first did with the first time. But at the end of the day, I am a connector, the more the merrier. And if you're special in my world, of course you're in my whole world.
Yeah. I love that. Because that's so true. I mean, I know plenty of people that they're like, no, not until like 6 months. Like, I know that I'm like, I'm going to commit to this person, maybe not marriage, but like, we're definitely going to be together for a while kind of thing. And that they won't introduce the kids. And yeah, I think to each their own, I mean, I think that there's for me, if I were in your shoes kind of thing, like I can see how you would have approached that. Whereas I think that, yeah, maybe it's not healthy in other ways where maybe it's not communicated very well and the kids aren't necessarily a part of the process. Right. And, but the man or woman are bringing different girls or guys in all the time. And it's a very unhealthy situation.
Yes.
So I can see, both sides of that, how it could be an argument in a sense. But I love the fact that just because I know how you are, like, I know that the communication was there and how inclusive you wanted them to be a part of that experience. Because, this could be their dad one day.
I mean, it's interesting because obviously, into your point, yes, boundaries. It wasn't like I was, having sleepovers. When I say have anyone in my world, they're joining us for the barbecue, right? These kinds of things. But I like what you just said, because to some degree, and I think why I came away from it again was this all or nothing mentality. Do you find we get like that? And then all of a sudden, so it's like, well, you have to make this decision that he's forever, and therefore the children meet him. And then that's the energy and the expectations you're putting on the whole program.
Mm-hmm.
And then another reason why, well, I can't possibly leave this person. I've made this public commitment and it will hurt the kids and all of that. Do you know what I mean? It for me, and what I realized with my kids when I included them, kids are so smart and so wise.
Yeah.
Who I'm dating, as long as they'll say, as long as they're good to you, mom, as long as they're kind to us, right? As long as you're happy and they're kind to us. So that's all they care about. And what I realized too was that my kids don't actually really care about my partners.
Oh,
They care about their father.
right.
The reason why our separation and divorce mattered so much to them was because it was their family and their mom and dad. Of course, right? That seems obvious, but so many of us then think, oh, I'm going to do that all over again to them if I introduce them to a partner, and that doesn't work out.
Right.
Not the case. That's not their dad.
Right. That's so true. Huh. That's so true. I'm not from a divorced family, but I can see that. Like, yeah. But yeah.
Sometimes we put so many expectations on these relationships. Isn't that, I think,
Right.
you know what we're talking about is that
I think it is. Yeah.
expectations are so much from all the angles, and then
Yeah.
we feel pressure to have these expectations, and we absolutely lose ourselves in the process.
I totally agree.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Huh. What else do I want to ask you? No. I know I don't want to take up too much of your time, but what is, I guess, what would be something that you would say to someone going through a divorce, or like the term you like to call uncoupling, if they're going through that right now and they're listening? Again, I mean, I know we touched on a lot of different things and techniques and tools and helpful advice, but is there anything else that you would say to them to help them, not feel that shame and embarrassment and any guilt and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, first, I want to really just acknowledge that going through an uncoupling or a breakup is so incredibly painful. It's so incredibly painful to just have compassion with yourself, because all of the things we're saying are. I just remember when I was at my rock bottom, I was thinking things like running away and never coming back, ending my life. I didn't feel as though I could go on, and I didn't know how to unpack the despair and the just failed life, and even understanding that there would be anything beyond this almost impossible experience. And I just want to first acknowledge, to validate, to recognize that this is an incredibly impossible experience to navigate. And I so encourage, for all the things that we've talked about, that people find community and support and help.
Yeah.
And then I just want to acknowledge that it doesn't stay here. It doesn't stay stuck. There absolutely is a future ahead that is bright and wonderful. But I will say that the breakthrough, which is how I refer to the crisis or the opportunity, the breakthrough is not a choice. It's here. It's not a matter of if, it's when, for all of us. And again, this type of loss could be empty nesting. It could be having children. It could be job loss. It could be anything, right? It really, truly, it could be losing a pet.
Yeah.
It's uncoupling, it's breakup, it's a loss, it's grief. And so just acknowledging that this is an opportunity for transformation, but that's the choice. The breakthrough, the crisis, the challenge is not a choice. The choice is in the transformation. And so for all the things that we've talked about, we do need to rise to the occasion. That is the intention. And I do recall when I was at my lowest, I remember being on the floor in the fetal position many times, just wishing lightning would strike, or someone would answer my prayers and this would all go away. It was a horrible dream, or, just being so devastated. And then remembering for the longest time, the doorbell would ring, my children would be asking for me. I would have to get to an appointment. I would have to get up off the floor. And I will say to all of you that are rising because you need to, that soon enough will change for when you finally decide to get up for yourself. And I picked myself up off that floor because I had to for probably a year.
Yeah.
Grieving isn't, and I still 8 years later, this past winter went through an incredible amount of grief that resurfaced. Loss is loss.
Yeah.
And so it is a choice to get up off the floor. And through getting up off the floor, you do, I believe, find yourself again.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. Thank you.
The pain is temporary, right? The pain is temporary.
Yeah, it is.
You've done tough stuff and you can do this too.
Yeah,
I think the greatest thing that I hear from my clients, in particular with divorce, and I'm not sure, I think it would be actually similar for all relationships. In fact, I had a client today share with me. She's a palliative care nurse. And she said, this is like palliative care. And you think you go into hospice or palliative care because you've got under 6 months to live, but some people live for another 2 or 3 years. So the thing is, loss, breakup, the end of something can be fast.
Yeah.
And immediate, but it can also take so much time. And we don't know. Yeah. And so for my clients that take a long time, there's, I think there is a point when it starts to impact your whole life in more negative ways, because that's when you start being defined by the negative experience and not overcoming it or living in parallel of it.
Yeah.
And that also might be a sign that you do need more specific professional help or support or community.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of therapy and whatever we need to do, health coach, life coach, relationship coach, divorce coach, anything that we can do to help peel ourselves off the floor faster. And not to say like, oh, you need to rush your healing. That's not what I'm suggesting, but to get yourself the tools and the mindset shifts that can help you to just feel better sooner.
Yeah.
That's it. We're still going to experience the days that suck.
Yeah. And I will tell you, Kelly, the work that you do means everything, because when I was in that space, my go-to was podcasts. It was people like yourself. And when I needed that quick inspiration or redirection or mindset shift, being able to tune in to what you offer meant everything to myself and my family. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. No, it's so true. I think that's like a part of, granted, I said, pouring myself into the things that are creating impact, part of that, like, I just wish I had someone to do it with, like someone to be like, that was a great episode. Like, good job, But with that being said, I get it, these types of things that I'm doing are so like, they fill up my cup so much. They fill me up so much that I'm so present that the world just like every other trouble and worry just melts away when I'm so present on these podcast chats and doing, public speaking, or just like even being with friends, just being around other like-minded people and just having those very engaging conversations. Like, okay, like I didn't even think about my ex-boyfriend for 5 minutes. Like, thank God, it's like, so it's so nice to to pour into something that really lights you up, because I think that helps you to like move the needle forward too. And even like just creating content on social media. Like sometimes I can be in like such a slump and such a funk, but then when I start, like, I'll just start talking on my Instagram story, I'll create a reel or something like that. And then I'm like, wait, that was kind of fun. Or wow, I felt so in my power just then. And it shifts everything.
Totally.
Yeah. It's a
I
powerful
think
thing
that
to do.
service work, really, because that's what you're talking about, light
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
service work, it totally allows for that shift in perspective,
Totally.
right? That despite whatever we're going through, other people need it more.
Yeah.
Other people are going through, and not to do the comparative suffering thing, but it is important to realize like we're not alone. And in fact, we're pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been so great. Thank you
I
so
love
much for
it.
being here. Tell everyone where they can find you, and tell them about your book again, too.
Okay, amazing. I will. So it's available on Amazon. It's the easiest place anyways. It's available a lot of other places. Make Lemonade, Thrive Through Divorce by Transforming Your Life.
Mm.
Also, all of my handles on all the places, my favorite is Instagram, is at Lemonade Life Coach. Happy to hop on a DM conversation and carry on any of the topics that we've been talking about. My website is lemonadelife.ca and my email is connect@lemonadelife.ca. And I love to hear from people. Kelly, you and I were talking about this. We love the feedback. I love to connect with people. So please, whatever, I love to meet people in real time with real thoughts.
Yes.
Don't wait. Whatever is speaking to you, share it with Kelly and I. We want to hear from you, right?
Yeah,
That's what we decided.
Yes. Yes, please. DM us. Let us know what you thought about the episode. If there's something that spoke to you, or if you have questions, feel free to reach out to either one of us or both of us. We want to connect with you. And again, that's part of all of our healing process, I think, is just connecting with like-minded people. And, it's helpful for all of us to create that community and impact. So definitely reach out to us. Let us know what's up. Yeah. But thank you so much, Alicia, for being here.
Thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, Kelly.
You're welcome. Yeah. If you loved this episode, please download, share, rate, and review. If you are ready to step into that next level version of you and grow your business and bank account, it's time to unleash your goddess magic and chase life with Kelly. You can start this epic expansion journey by diving into the Goddess Magic course bundle found at chaselifetogether.com. Please connect with me on Instagram at Chase Life with Kelly. Join the Chase Life with Kelly Facebook community and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Till next time, create the life you crave, babe, and chase life with Kelly.